Hey guys, welcome back to St. Mojo Homestead on a beautiful weekend here in South Carolina. It is the last weekend of October and we are supposed to be getting into the lower to mid 80s. Absolutely ridiculous. But by midweek we're plummeting down into upper 30s, and so for our lows. We've got a little bit of prep work to do. We've got to clean out our garden. We have let all of our summer stuff go as long as possible, but these 30-degree temperatures are going to more than likely kind of wipe them out. So what we have planned today is picking the peppers that we are gonna overwinter and get all of our basil harvested, and then hoping to also get some more work done on the greenhouse. We also need to finish planting. We still have fall plantings that have to go in. We have a lot of onions and a lot more onions coming. So
Yeah.
we are really going to beef it up this year on our onions. We did, if I remember correctly, about 150 to 200 onions last year, and it wasn't enough. We're still trying to figure out our, how much we want to grow in that.
And onions are used daily.
Yeah, so let's get started.
Yeah.
I'm going to be focusing on peppers. Cass is going to be focusing on the basil and getting that harvested and put away. So what I'm doing with the peppers is something we do every single year. I'm going to sit down and talk a little bit before we get started. Is something that we do every single year, and that is overwintering our peppers. Last year we did not have a ton of success just because the area that we had them in wasn't very conducive to overwintering. Honestly, just didn't get quite enough sunlight. If you guys are in South Carolina, you know this. If you were following us at that time, then you may remember this, but we got unseasonably cold. We got down into single digits, which never happens. It's happened once in my lifetime. So we didn't have a lot that survived, and the ones that did were extremely stunted and did not perform well at all this year. So we are going to be doing it again this year with the ones that we started. So this is something that you can continue to do year after year. Most of them that we lost this year were heading into their third year. And I'll talk about this in more detail, is essentially cut them back, dig them out, and then move them to a warm place where they'll be able to survive through the winter time. As long as it's above 50 degrees, they'll do okay. But we don't expect them to continue to produce for us through the winter time. That's not our goal. Our goal is to get the plant through the winter so then we can reuse that plant in the next year. The reason that we feel that this is important, and even more so now, is that as things become more and more, I guess, tumultuous in the world, and just less and less of a guarantee, that security level is becoming more and more fragile, I think, if we're just going to speak honestly in this area. And there's a lot of kind of financial forecasts out there that say that there's no real major recovery in the foreseeable future, and potentially heading into another down year where things, one, are going to be more expensive, but two, potentially could be harder to have access to. So with the possibility of seeds being affected there, we are all about looking for ways to be more sustainable, which means not relying as heavily on having to buy seeds for the garden every single year. Now, you can seed save, yes, and we will be doing that as well with a lot of our stuff. But where we can save a plant, we're definitely going to do that. The benefit of doing this is that you are able to start out way ahead of the curve. One, you're not having to grow a baby plant, get it up to somewhat mature size, and then put it in your garden. With peppers, they actually will flush, meaning they have a big crop, and if you pick them all, they're going to go back to flower, restart, try again. In our climate here in South Carolina, with our long growing season, we can get 3 good flushes out of them. And that third flush happens as you're exiting out of the summer and heading into the fall. So that's typically your biggest, heaviest flush, where you're getting the biggest peppers with those really thick walls and everything. When you overwinter, that plant is already mature enough to be able to support that. You're going to get really big peppers right at the beginning of the season, and then they're just going to get bigger and more prolific as the season goes on.
So we have a ton of basil
growing in the garden. Our basil really took off this year. I'm so excited about it. We've already harvested a bunch, but it is just not going to make it with these lower temperatures coming. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest the rest of it. The way I really prefer to preserve our basil is with, we actually put it in the food processor with olive oil and salt, like pesto base, and freeze them in cubes. And then we take out as many cubes as we need for pasta when we need it. We toast some nuts and add some more olive oil and use it as a really good pesto sauce for chicken or pasta. One other thing I would like to try to do this year, I haven't preserved herbs with our freeze dryer. You get a much healthier herb. You don't lose as much of the nutritional value in the herbs when you preserve them with a freeze dryer. But we've always had so much going on in our freeze dryer at this time with milk and all of that, and eggs, that we never really took the time to do our basil. But Jess from Roots and Refuge Farm was telling me that that's one of her favorite ways to preserve her herbs, and I figured I'd give it a try. We have so much this year that I would like to experiment with putting some in the freeze dryer and seeing how they turn out. I'll let you know how that goes later in a later video, but I figured today would be a great time to try it out.
Maybe this will help you this year. If not, be prepared for next year so that you can do it then. So to start off with, the essentials are you're gonna need some pots and some soil because we are gonna be potting these to overwinter them. You don't have to use this size pot. This is just what I have right now. Normally you can kind of squeeze them into a gallon size and that's gonna be good enough. They're not gonna do a ton of growing in the wintertime, so you don't really need it. But the 3 gallon size does allow for extra root growth without those roots getting completely compacted. The downside is it does take a little bit more soil. So I'm gonna be mixing the soil conditioner with some of our compost. So they have lots of nutrients to get through the winter time. So once you get these, get the dirt in the pots, then you're gonna move to your peppers. So the first thing you're gonna do when you are preparing your peppers for this is find the Y, the lowest Y. So what I mean by that is right here. Let me see if I can get you at a better angle. There you go. So you're gonna cut it just above that Y. So you're gonna cut it here, cut it here. You're only gonna have just that kind of skeleton of a plant left, but that's what you want. You don't want this plant to be repotted and have to try to go through the winter time with all of this foliage up here that is trying to support. All right, so the next thing you're gonna do is dig these things up and get them potted. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then you wanna make sure you label these things. Don't make the mistake of not labeling them, getting into next year, and then forgetting, what's what? You know, where's my sweet peppers? Where's my hot peppers? Where's my whatever peppers? One reason is because if you do lose some, then you want to know what you have to plant or replace for next year. The other reason is it's just kind of nice to know, especially if you like to separate them in your garden. You're going to need to know what's what. Now, most people can identify them once they start producing peppers, but these guys are not going to have peppers on them when you go to plant them in the spring. All right, just like that. This one is ready to go. You do want to make sure you get all that dirt pushed down around those roots really, really well. Make sure those roots are covered. We're gonna water these in really, really good because this thing has just been put through major trauma with the roots being pulled out of the dirt, it being cut way back. So you wanna make sure you pamper these things just for the first couple of days, and then it should be good to go to overwinter in what will hopefully be a finished greenhouse very soon. So the last step to all of this is we will put straw on top of these pots, kind of, you know, down around it, cover the top of the dirt. That's just gonna help hold in moisture so you're not having to water them continually through the wintertime. You definitely wanna make sure they don't dry completely out, but you also wanna make sure they're not staying soggy or anything like that because they're not gonna take up a ton of water, but you don't want those roots to dry out. So that straw will help do that. It also helps to create just a little bit of extra insulation. So we got all of our peppers potted up. Yes, ready to overwinter. And you were busy with basil for most of the day.
Yes, that basil. There was so much of it, and I really haven't even gotten all of it. So
it's getting there. We're freeze drying some.
Yes, and then we're gonna do the pesto that I that I like to make.
Yeah, yeah. And we even got to share some with our neighbor. 'cause we had
Yes.
so much
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry we didn't bring you guys along for more, but we just, as we stated before, have a really busy weekend, and just today was pretty busy.
Yeah,
we just
yeah,
needed
yeah.
to like get in, get it done,
Yeah.
and all of that. So, but today was pretty productive.
It was.
I would
It
say.
was. I feel good about today.
Yeah. And
A
then
lot
tomorrow, we're back at it.
Yep.
So, highs and lows?
That's the most.
You going first?
Sure.
All right.
My high was definitely probably Friday. I got to hang out with some friends that I don't get to hang out with a lot. The kids got to hang out with some friends they don't get to hang out with a lot, and we got to go to the football game. So that was really fun. My low is probably that I don't really know that I have a low.
That's good.
Yeah. Good week.
I would say that my high was, the football game was a lot of fun. My parents came to watch Sailor cheer,
Yeah.
and so got to just kind of visit with them some. And then Joe had his last baseball game, which wasn't necessarily a high, but the high was, it was like an amazing game. Like the whole team did great, and they got a really big win for their last game. So, also, our carrots are popping up.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
exciting. I discovered that this week. So we have little baby carrot plants coming up. So that was a high too. I think my low would probably be just didn't get really a chance to work on the greenhouse today, which that was kind of a bonus thing with really cold weather coming in. Like garden was priority, but was hoping to get a little bit more done on the greenhouse. But that's okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it done
Yeah.
because I'm still motivated.
Yeah, good. Need you to be. Well, that's all we have for you. Thanks again for hanging out with us on our homestead. If you like this content, we would love for you to share it with your friends and comment below and share with us what you are doing on your homestead or in your garden. We hope you have a great week and be blessed.